So, I just saw Hacksaw Ridge, directed by Mel Gibson, and I have a question to ask. And it is an actual serious question. Is Hacksaw Ridge actually a good movie? It is a combat movie, and there's explosions and death and gore, but nothing is exceptional in that area. It is what you would expect from a decent war movie production. So let's talk about the other aspects of the movie. Is the story of Hacksaw Ridge great? Well, I think it's a pretty compelling story in itself, not in the way the movie told the story. In many ways, the story of Hacksaw Ridge is good in spite of how the movie delivers the story. When people talk about script, they're actually talking about three different elements. First is the plot of the story. The second is the dialogue. The third is how scenes are composed to deliver information, and how those scenes are collected to deliver the story. And these are all separate things that require separate different skills. And in terms of the script of Hacksaw Ridge, I just told you the story itself is pretty good, because the real life story is pretty good. The dialogue, let's just say the dialogue is not great. Dialogue is not great. And the way the dialogue is delivered is worse. It's really weird, considering it almost feels like people are trying to fake an American accent poorly, and thus cannot really act through that impediment. Which is weird, considering there are American actors in this movie. Okay, and let's talk about the actual composition of scenes and sequences. It is bad. It is really, really bad. This movie has 3 acts. In many ways, the third act is the best, because it is generally simpler and more focused. The first act, we have the protagonist's childhood, which is basically a motivation for him throughout the movie. Second, we have a brief and very, very awkward boot camp training sequences. Third, we have a trial scene. All of these are terribly handled. We don't really get a clear sense of his childhood trauma. We really don't get a sense of the character dynamics between his battalion, which becomes important in the second act when we see them all die. Even though all the characters in his battalion, it is just blunt caricatures, you don't really remember any of them. So after a while, when they all start dying, it doesn't really matter much. The second act, it is the battle. Let's just say it is not very focused. It basically becomes an ensemble movie at that point, which it was not during the first act. And the protagonist gets lost through most of the second act, and now in the third act. And that part is pretty okay because it's focused. The problem is that a lot of the motivation is not properly set up. Anyway, that's just my rant. I wish Hacksaw Ridge was a far better movie. Anyway, that's me.